Definitely want to touch on our personal New Year's resolutions, things we want to keep for the Tar Heels, things you want to keep for the Blue Devils. And then we're gonna get into some things that we want to purge. You know, the real resolutions. You
Definitely
know, things
need some purging.
We need, things we want to get rid of.
Hello and welcome everybody to a new episode of the Better Blue Podcast. It's a new year.
It's a new year. Happy New Year's, brother.
Happy New Year. I'm Ryan Kelly. This is James Michael McAdoo on the other side of the couch. Let's get after it today.
Appreciate y'all tuning in. Thank you guys and girls for sticking with us through our initial launch there in 2022. It's good to be coming to y'all. New year. Excited for everything that's going to happen on the podcast and with our respective universities, man.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to just get into a little bit of what we're going to be covering today, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Definitely want to touch on our personal New Year's resolutions, things we want to keep for the Tar Heels, things you want to keep for the Blue Devils. And then we're going to get into some things that we want to purge. You know, the real resolutions. You
Definitely
know, things
need some purging.
We need, things we want to get rid of. So this is going to be an exciting episode. We're also going to talk about a little bit about our most memorable games. So you want to talk to them about that, Ryan?
Yeah, lots of when you hit the new year, you start thinking of the past, thinking of the future.
Good memories.
And lots of good memories as we've talked about our times at Duke and UNC. And we thought this would be the perfect opportunity to share some good stories, share our experiences of our not necessarily the best game of our career. I think for me, mine is. Yours may not be statistically the best game, but something that really comes to mind as a great positive moment when we look back on our careers in college. And, like J-Mike said, as always, Better Blue Podcast.
Yep.
Got to drop that. Don't forget to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube down below. Make sure you're up on the downloads on Apple Pod or Spotify. And thanks for listening and watching. But it's been a great year, and excited for the future for both our teams. And thanks, like J-Mac said, to all of you that have been with us for the last couple months here of 2022 and are riding with us into 2023. So exciting stuff. And
we started a podcast, man.
We started a podcast on the other side of the world.
We're still going.
That's actually a good story. I don't want to waste people's time. But
it's
another time?
Man. Another time.
Another time. Yeah.
We did tell them, though, that most podcasts die after the fourth episode. And
we're powering through.
We've powered through that, man. So shout out to, I think we're like in the, 99th percentile of pods in terms of just staying alive. So
we are alive.
That's great to know, man.
Barely.
But again, we appreciate y'all.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. And let's do it. Let's get into our favorite memories. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
I'll let you go first, man.
All right. So
talk to us about your most memorable game. Or is this your most memorable game, or just like, because like you said, mine doesn't necessarily mean it's my most memorable game.
Yeah, it's. I would say for me, it is both my most memorable individual performance, and also what I think a lot of people looking back on my career as fans of Duke would say is my most memorable moment.
I did, before you tell it, I looked up the highlights because as you all might know, I'm here alone. My family's back home in the States, so I have a lot of time on my hands. I looked up the highlights, man. You was cooking. You was cooking, bro.
For reference, he's talking about, we've mentioned before, and we've had a number of comments and even some stuff in the mailbag of people saying, you need to have talk about your game against Miami, my return game against Miami, who was then number 2 in the country and had
Kenny Kaji, Shane Larkin, Trey McKinney-Jones, who's out here with us. Was Reggie Johnson on that team?
No, not Reggie Johnson, but Julian Gamble. Yeah, he came
North
off
Carolina
the bench.
Guy.
Yep, North Carolina guy.
That was a good team.
So they were a very good team.
Durant Scott.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, great
New York
team.
guy. So, and there's really people saw a little bit of the story and heard a little bit of the story of the background to that, but I don't want to take too much time. But at the end of the day, so I have the date here.
Take your time, brother.
Yeah.
It's
All
our
right.
podcast.
Take my time. All right. Yeah, we have all the time in the world. So on January 8th of that year, we were playing Clemson.
Okay.
Actually, backstory to backstory. Junior year, I broke my foot right
Okay.
before the ACC tournament. Broke the 5th metatarsal in my foot. It's a Jones fracture, which is a fracture that not a lot of blood flow there. You kind of have to have surgery. They put a screw in there, and the screw promotes healing.
Okay.
So had that done, felt great, recovered from that
All summer.
and going into my senior year was, as the season, preseason, all those things, was healthy and ready to go. And it is a relatively common injury for especially big guys, but basketball players. It's, as far as broken things go, it's relatively common. So I go into my senior year and had a very good season up until that point. Was kind of hitting my stride late December into beginning of January, and we were playing Clemson, like I said, on January 8th, and actually right before the half, I won't call it a Euro step, but kind of got on a fast break and tried to kind of step around the defender and got fouled, but felt my bone just pop again. And I took the free throws and I believe made them, but then I was like, I got to get out.
Yeah.
And we didn't really know what was going on. It was like with a minute left, and then I got put back in the game at the end of the half. They put me back in like for the last final play or something like that, and I couldn't move.
Okay.
Went back to the locker room, and I always think the funny little story is that during that game, I actually outscored Clemson at half.
Wow.
I had 12 points. Clemson had 10 at half.
Poor Clemson.
Yeah. So then for context, I had to look up these dates. I don't remember these dates, but I ended up coming back in that Miami game March 3rd.
So what was the diagnosis, though? Like,
so
you feel the pop? You like,
yeah, I knew something happened. I knew it immediately that something happened. Long story short, when you put a screw or something into your body, you want to do it as small as possible.
Right.
And it wasn't anybody's fault, but the screw was basically, if I'm looking at the camera here, the screw was in my bone and it was going like this in my bone because there was too much space and it was moving, and then eventually the bone.
The screw stayed in there.
The screw at the time stayed in there.
Okay.
So we got an X-ray then, I think at halftime, and it showed up. We went to get that quick X-ray and ultimately got the MRI that showed it was all broke. It had re-broken.
Sheesh.
Again, surprisingly, not an uncommon thing with Jones fractures. They have a tendency to re-break.
Yeah.
So I came back basically 2 months after that, and those 2 months I was effectively doing nothing but trying to get opinions on whether or not what I could do.
Yeah. No load bearing.
Yep, I was off of it. Just trying to let it heal. I sent the MRI, not for lack of trust of the Duke people, but just to get as many opinions as possible.
Senior season, man.
So that was the big thing. Was if I had surgery,
you're done.
My career was over.
Yeah.
But I was going to be able to be ready to do all draft stuff.
Yeah.
And if I did not have surgery then, of course, they said there's a chance that it could heal.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I was going to have surgery.
Yeah.
So ended up, after a number of consultations with doctors.
Which people got to understand. When you go to these universities, you do have the best of
absolutely.
the best.
Yep.
And if they don't have the best in-house, probably just like your situation, they're going out and getting, the absolute best opinions.
And we had a doctor. I went with my parents to Charlotte to meet with a doctor. I don't want to get his name wrong. I think it was Dr. Andrews or somebody. He was a foot specialist.
For sure.
A big-time foot specialist. And he basically sat me down after seeing everything, and he was like, look, if I were your parent, it's your senior season. You're not going to do anything worse to it. If you can find a way to play, I would play.
Yeah.
And that was the guy that ultimately I was like, all right, I'm going with that. And but the crazy thing about it is that happened like basically that decision was made. If I played in the Miami game March 3rd, that decision happened like at the end of February ultimately. Yeah. And at that point I had done nothing. Yeah. Like I was doing nothing. Yeah. And the hope was that it would heal some, but I was doing nothing. And
no telling, because it's like, hey, no telling what's going on down there.
No.
MRIs, X-rays can only show so much.
Exactly.
You could probably run and jog, but as soon as there's a difference between, when an athlete gets hurt, sprained ankle, whatever it is, your situation between going out and getting up shots versus game live action.
Exactly.
There's a huge difference.
Exactly. And to be honest, I don't even think I was jogging. I was like doing the hand bike, like that thing.
Yeah.
Just for the hand.
Man.
So yeah, it was I made that decision at the end of February, and it was very tough. And part of the process that Duke used to ultimately come back from a broken foot was this thing called a clamshell, which was it was a hard cast. Like you can imagine the hardness of a cast, and it's hard to describe, but it would overlap, and it would you could take it on and off.
Yeah.
And I had to wear it inside of my shoe.
Yeah.
And so I had to have these giant shoes. I think I wore those big LeBrons because they were the biggest basketball shoes you could have.
Sure.
And
you would put this on before putting the shoe in, or
I'd put my sock on. I'd put this clamshell on, and then stuff my foot inside. I know, it was crazy.
And what was it supposed to be doing though?
I think just protect. It limited the mobility of my foot, so the foot wasn't moving that much. And then also, if anybody were to step on my foot, or it was just protection.
Yeah.
Very uncomfortable.
I can't imagine. LeBron's already a tough shoe.
Exactly. If you thought if you think I'm ground bound now,
LeBrons are made for one person.
Yeah, LeBron. So I decided to come back at the end of February. Spent like a couple days probably getting the clamshell and all those things.
Yeah.
And I legitimately, the day before that Miami game was the one practice I did.
Wow.
Yeah, I will say this. I did do some rehabbing in the pool. There's a good video on YouTube that like goes through all my rehab, and I'm talking about it. It's pretty cool. But I'm just getting Rocky theme music.
Like, he's back.
I am not as jacked as Rocky in that video. And so I practiced one time before the game. And it was like one of those 45 minutes. It was the day before. We did go live, probably just for me.
Yeah.
And it was very quick.
Probably. How'd you feel? I mean,
I was fine. I mean, I felt like I was just kind of out there. I didn't know.
But the foot was like.
It was pain-wise, it was tolerable. Now, the clamshell, the big shoe, like I felt like I was in quicksand.
Didn't feel like you said.
But it was, and after practice, Coach K came up to me and said, "Look good. You want to play tomorrow?" And in my head, I was like, there's only 3 regular season games left in my senior year. I'm like, what's the point in waiting? Like, what is getting another day of practicing going to do for me? And so I said, yeah, let's do it. Yeah. And
I didn't know this. I didn't know this was the whole backstory.
Yeah. Bro. So I told him that. And then I called my parents that night. And, my parents close to home. But when I was hurt, they weren't coming to every single game. Yeah, wow. When I was healthy, they were coming to almost every one, being 25 minutes away. And I called and told them and said, I'm going to play. Yeah. Like, I'll dress up and play. Like, I don't know how much I'm actually going to play. But, we'll, if you want to come, I'll be. It's one of my last games of my senior year. And they said, all right, well, yeah, we might come. and I basically, the last minute, they're like, all right, we'll go.
Nice.
And
because did you start?
So that was part of it too. We're going through warm-ups, all that. I'm honestly thinking I'm just there to warm up, and maybe the other team thinks I'm going to play. Maybe, And Coach K, before the game, goes, all right, I'm going to start you. So I was like, I was like, all right, let's do it. Like, so in my head still, I'm saying, well, he's starting me and he's pulling me. I mean, like, it's just like, for a motivation.
For sure.
And I will say one of the most memorable moments of my entire career was the moment my name got called for the starting lineup.
Dang,
and there have been a lot of very loud moments that I experienced in
Yeah.
Cameron, especially against North Carolina.
Yeah.
And
No disrespect taken on
Coach K would say, and it really is doing it to me. It's giving me goosebumps a little bit.
On my couch, man.
On your couch.
I am honored. We are honored in the McAdoo household.
That's a classic Coach K line. He's getting goosebumps, but you do.
Yeah.
And it was very loud.
Yeah.
And as we've joked about the White Raven, I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people throwing this up. And that was an awesome moment that I will never forget and love the Cameron Crazies for. Yeah. And then we go to the huddle after all that. And he comes in. Coach K draws up the first play. It's for me.
Nice.
It's for me to set a back screen, kind of flare, and then to pop and just shoot it. He's like, just shoot it.
Yeah.
And so we run this play. Works perfectly. I catch. Fire it up.
Bottoms.
Clank.
Oh, clank. Oh, my bad. I'm confident in you, brother. I saw the highlights.
I missed it.
Okay.
So then in my head, I'm like, all right, I'm coming out again. Like, that was it. Like, that was my shot. And then I didn't miss much the rest of the way.
I missed.
And
how many threes did you have in?
7.
Tell the people what you finished with.
Yeah, I finished with 36 points, which was my career high.
What was your second highest after that?
I don't know that I hit 30 again.
Yeah,
I mean, it was in the 20s.
That's tough, bro.
Yeah.
Good.
And 7 for 9 from 3.
Yeah.
I think 10 for 14 from the field, 6 or 7 boards.
Yeah.
So I think basically the only time I ended up coming out of the game was I had to come out because that clamshell in my foot was just blistering up my foot so bad and tearing up my foot.
Ooh.
That I had to go back. It was like the Kurt Schilling sock game where he's bleeding because literally my foot was bleeding. The inside of my foot from rubbing on this cast basically inside my shoe. So I had to go get a new sock.
Wow.
And not to get too graphic, if you looked at my foot now, you can see on the inside of my foot where it tore up my foot for like weeks.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't
another
be looking
time.
at your feet like that, but thanks for letting us know.
I'll show you in the
locker
room.
I know we spent a lot of time together, but not even that much. That's gnarly.
Yeah, it was tough. And
did you end up getting surgery after the season?
End up having to have surgery after the season.
Right after the season, huh?
Yep, right after the season. After we lost, that ended up being that Louisville loss.
Yep.
And I had a couple good games after that Miami game. The following game, I think we played Virginia Tech, had a pretty good game.
Good.
But I was just deteriorating. I couldn't move, limping around.
What was the adrenaline like in that game, the Miami game? I mean, you talked about the emotions, not having played. This is one of your probably last 2 or 3 home games. What was that like?
I mean, it was incredible.
Yeah.
Because it was so, I'm confident, and I've always been confident in what I can do, but.
Were you surprised? I mean, if I'm your teammate, I'm like, why have you been sitting out the last 2 months? Like, okay.
We saw like 2 weeks later when I couldn't make anything, but the emotions were high. I knew I was out of my mind because I was doing like the 3 to the head, mellow.
You need to bring that back.
I need to bring it back. And I think people have seen that because they see me mouthing it where I think after the first 3 that I hit, whatever the next shot was, I hit a 3. And I did I went like, I still got it, to the bench.
I think I saw that.
Yeah, I still got it. And, so I was obviously out of my mind.
Arm after you hit the shot.
Yeah, I was like, what is going on?
It's kind of painful. Like, man, don't hit your shoulder.
That was a little, the shoulder,
that's awesome.
Elbows messed up. So, yeah, that was definitely my most memorable moment. And it was pretty cool. In that video too, again, maybe we can get the audio just so I can watch this back and feel good. Is I think Coach K calls it one of the performances of the ages and one of the best performances in Cameron of all time. Which when you're look up in the rafters of a place like Cameron, all the great players,
so much history in that.
Even if it's just one game, and I'm proud of my career and the totality of it, but to be mentioned with some of the great performances in an individual game is pretty awesome.
It's awesome, bro.
Early on in the process where I wasn't sure. I really wanted to be here for my teammates, regardless of what happened.
One for the ages. Probably as good a performance as any player has had, a Duke player has had in Cameron. To have a coach a kid who did that, how lucky can you be, man?
Yeah, that's pretty
Kudos to you, man. Kudos to Coach K, man,
Yeah.
for giving you that shot. If you're a sophomore, junior, maybe you don't get that, but I feel like having had the relationship you had with him, there was that trust.
Absolutely.
There was for sure that trust there.
And that's probably what even –
because you could have went out there and missed all those shots.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's what he allowed me to play with confidence. Yeah. And I'm not going to say I had that same confidence my freshman year when I got there, but he believed in me, and that sets up for moments like that.
Yeah.
When he believes in you.
All right, I'll take over from here, man. My story is my game, I should say, is a little different than yours. It's not in terms of statistical wise my greatest game, but it was definitely just one of the most memorable games of my career. It was my freshman year, and I guess I'll give a little bit of backstory. Coming into Carolina, we talked about this before. They were the #1 team preseason. I was a big recruit. I was a top 5 recruit coming in, McDonald's All-American, all that jazz. And I definitely struggled early, not in the fact that I wasn't, starting. I just felt like I wasn't playing up to my potential. Mm-hmm. And, you always have an idea of how things are going to go in life. And I just felt like, the team was having we lost the game early on, but we always were in the top, 25 for sure, top 10. But I just felt like I wasn't progressing the way I wanted to,
sure.
Coming in as that blue chip recruit. So late in the season, John Henson ended up getting injured. I had an opportunity to get put into the starting lineup. This was in the ACC tournament. Ended up playing really well. We ended up losing in the ACC championship game. But this was the first time where I personally had garnered any type of buzz around my name like I had previously before I stepped on campus in terms of, hey, this kid might be able to be a one-and-done prospect, So we end up, like I said, losing in the ACC championship game, go on and play in the ACC tournament. John comes back, but I'm still, coach is kind of like, okay, I can rely on J-Mac.
Yeah, I can trust you.
I'm getting more minutes. Yep. I'm getting a lot more minutes, and I'm playing really well. I have a good game the first weekend, and then we go into the second weekend, and we win Sweet 16. And then we had the game to go to the Elite Eight. But it just so happened that our point guard, which we've talked about before, Kendall Marshall, broke his wrist. So we were able to survive the Sweet 16 game. But now we have KU, Kansas, who's a really good team. And we're without our starting point guard, Kendall Marshall.
Tough break.
Tough break, for sure. But still, anything can happen in the NCAA tournament. So I'm still, kind of, like I said previously, playing really good, going to this game. And it's really one of these games where, looking back over my career, high school, middle school, lower school, college, NBA, everywhere else I've played professionally, it was really one of the just most exciting games I've ever been a part of, because of everything that was going on around it. My first time playing in the NCAA tournament, playing in the Elite Eight with an opportunity to go to the Final Four. I never got to experience that like you, playing in the Dome in St. Louis, where the St. Louis Rams, I was a St. Louis Rams fan growing up, getting to play there against, the Kansas Jayhawks, Coach Roy's, previous team.
That's right, yeah.
There was so much going on here. And I don't remember much of anything from the game, bro. It was all a blur. It was just all a blur. I remember I had to go back and look. Obviously I remember I played good. I ended up finishing in 19 minutes. I had 15 points, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, and a block, which,
that's making use of your minutes.
Yeah, for sure. Which that was the biggest thing. I was like, man, I got to it. What I mean? I ended up being the leading scorer on our team that year, in that game, albeit we lost. It was tied at halftime, 47-47 all. We ended up losing, of course, at the end by about 13 points to a really good Kansas team. They had, Jeff Withey, Thomas Robinson, who ended up being a top 5 draft pick. They had Tyshawn Taylor, who ended up getting drafted. Funny story, I played with Tyshawn my first year overseas in Italy, which was kind of cool. He was a cool dude. He never really,
gave it to you.
He never gave it
about
to me. Like he could have.
Yeah.
Like he could have. But shout out to Tyshawn, man, doing his thing. But just for me, playing good in that game made it a really tough decision after the game, you know, having the opportunity. Now I'm like, man, do I test the waters? You know, do I put my name in the draft? Do I leave school? And, you know, hindsight 2020, ended up coming back, staying for another 2 years before leaving. But just, you know, I remember having to make that decision, and that was for sure one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make in my life.
Well, my question is going to be, what was that process?
The process was
into you making that decision.
Trying to get as much information as possible.
Yeah.
You know, that's the biggest thing. You know, trying to get as much information as possible. It wasn't as easy as it is now because we've talked about this before. Guys can put their name in the draft. They can go
test it for
do workouts.
Yep.
They can go, you know, I think they even can do like a combine up in Chicago. They
Yep.
can go sit and talk with these GMs. You know, back then it was basically just sitting down talking with Coach Roy, you know, him trying to, you know, call and talk to as many NBA personnel as he can,
Yep.
you know, which, I mean, I love Coach Roy, but he didn't have all 30 GMs' phone numbers,
Yeah.
you know, so he can only do so much. And then just talking with my family, talking with my loved ones, praying about it. But having that game, you know, where I just was like, it's tough because you lose, right? And you supposed to be, and I was.
Yeah.
There's photos, you know, after the game, everybody's sobbing, like, it's over, you know, like for our seniors, that was it for them, you know, and but for me, it was just like, there was a smidgen of like, dang, like, I just did that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, as a freshman, you know, like, similar to like you saying, I'm like, man, I still got it, you know, because like I told you, I struggled throughout a majority of that year. So to come on late and then to finish with that game, even with a loss, you know, I think that's what inevitably led to me coming back. I was like, man, I can't leave not having, you know, tried to do this again, you know, and get back over that hump and make it to a Final Four. Now, I had no idea how difficult that was going to be.
It's not like, no problem. Yeah.
If I knew how hard that was going to be, boy, I would have left. I would have been out of that. I wouldn't have taken no more classes. I would have left, Ryan. But, you know.
I got you.
I came back.
Yeah. That was like me winning a championship my freshman year. I'm like,
you know,
if I'm here for 4 years, I'm going to get like 2 or 3 of these.
You thought, boy, I'm like, man, we can do this again. I can, mind you, our 5 starters leave, and it's just me. And I'm like, this is going to be a little bit more harder than I thought it would be. So, but yeah, I mean, that was just, you know, my family was there, you know, it was the end of my freshman year, you know, it's like similar to you. That was towards the end of your senior year. And, you know, I only played 3 years there. And as you know, it goes so fast. So fast, man. But
I can see that emotion, though, that it's the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
But like we've talked about when my year when I won it but didn't play, where
Yeah.
I have that kind of like,
yeah.
it's awesome to be a part of that.
Awesome.
But, you know, you had that flip side where you
Yeah.
lost, but you're
Yeah.
like, well, there's something to take from this
For sure.
For me,
Always.
for you know, this is a building block for who I want to be as a player.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah. Lesson learned.
yeah.
Lesson learned.
And-
KU's had our number since then, though. Man.
Well, that's at least you know, like you said, you always find a way to improve and take
For sure.
taking a nugget of something and
For sure.
grow from it.
Yeah.
So that's a good story. And
I remember after the game, literally we're like flying back, and Coach Rob was like, he's like, "Are you thinking about leaving?" One of our assistant coaches, because up to that point, it's like the coaches aren't even talk. I'm not at Carolina. I wonder at Kentucky if like Coach Calipari is like, "Yo, my man, you playing good? You about to be up out of here?" You know, like we're not talking. Coach K's not. He's not even talking about that. You know, like going into the ACC tournament, going into the NCAA tournament, like guys are telling me like, "Yo, your name's popping up on these mock drafts." I'm just like, "Oh, like." All right,
Yeah,
cool.
what does that mean?
mean? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know. Like, I really didn't know.
And that's a tough thing, too, where, I mean, a Coach Roy Williams,
Yeah.
a Coach K, of course they had the best interest of the kid at heart. But I would have probably imagined that most of them would say, I'm a really good coach. If you stay with me,
For
you'll
sure.
get better.
For sure.
So,
For sure.
you'll be a better player if you stay here. And that's not to say that they're like, oh, I'm not going to tell them the truth. It's not that.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Yeah.
you know, if I was picking for you, I'd say come back.
Yeah, of course. Of course. That's a story for another time.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the new year. 2023 is here.
That's crazy.
Man, I feel like it was just 2020. Man, it's been a crazy 3 years.
It's somehow been super fast, and
I know.
there were some super slow moments.
Slow, yeah, those quarantines, baby. So we're just going to talk about basically things that we want to remember the most, cherish the most from this past year, and just things that we want to kind of maybe purge. This is a new year. These are maybe some of our like New Year resolutions, things we want to get rid of going into this new year. And let's start with things we want to get rid of.
Always do the bad stuff.
You always do the bad stuff. Get rid of the sugar. Get rid of the bad,
at least
the
for
adult beverages,
couple weeks.
Yeah, all that stuff. So, you want to go first? Tell the people what you're trying to purge.
My purge, things I want to forget from 2022. I mean, we have to start if we're looking back to the early stages of 2022. I really just, you won't let me live it down, but I want to forget those losses to Carolina.
Yeah. One shining moment. I don't know, something about the mic I just love to sing, man. My wife hates it though, so I'll stop. The losses. Those are two of the first games that I've been to as a former player. I mean, since I left. So you're the problem.
And I think I might be the problem. Like I mentioned earlier in December, like I said, one of you sold your souls, or all of you sold your souls. But
we went all in.
But I would love to forget all about that. And though, you know what? If we're taking a kernel of positivity from the negativity, I do look back at that Final Four loss and say, pretty cool. I took a road trip with my son, 2-day road trip down from Raleigh to New Orleans. It was brutal to watch the loss, but the excitement on my son's face to be at a Final Four.
Yeah, it's great for the rivalry, man.
It's not great for the rivalry.
No, it was.
The moment was. But now it's like.
I'm trying to be positive for you here, bro.
Yeah, right. All right. So now because I said it, nobody can talk about it ever again. All right, nobody viewers
brings it up.
or listeners can bring it up. Don't put it in the comments. All right. Now we're going to roll into this year's team a little bit. I want to purge this team of injuries. Yeah. Because the start of this season was clearly hampered, and preseason was hampered by the injuries to Derek Lively, to Whitehead. I don't think it's not a major issue, but Roach had the little toe injury, missed a game. When the season starts with that, you just don't want to be snake bitten by that.
That's tough.
So that's my second purge.
It can snowball. Those type of things can snowball.
It goes foot injury, scares the crap out of me.
It's real.
And anything with muscles, Lively calf, and you still see him wearing his calf sleeve. So just scary. Just want those purge. Yeah. And then finally is the poor shooting. I just want that to end.
That's a good one.
Duke covering in the low 30s, 31% from three through most of December here. And as we roll into the new year, and I'd love that to be over with. And they're low 40% from the field and low 30s from three. So those are my get rid of. Forget about it. Flush it.
My turn.
Okay, go ahead.
Similar to you. I mean, there's nothing really I want to talk about as far as last season.
Yeah.
I mean, would have been nice to have won the championship, but, that was.
We're not talking about changing the past.
I can't change that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So not mad about that at all.
Yep.
I would say just, going into the summer, it was definitely a tough blow to lose out on the kid Gigi Jackson, who, we've seen is down in South Carolina doing some pretty good things. potential, lottery pick talent, that's down, a couple hours south of Carolina. It would have been nice to have gotten him in Carolina blue. But for whatever reason, he chose to go there, which is, his decision. Got to respect it. But would have just loved to see having that kind of talent with this group, how that might have changed the dynamics. Who knows what type of team we're looking at.
You're trying to purge the poor recruiting is what you're saying?
Not. Listen, the kid was going. I don't think it had to do with as much as recruiting. Clearly he was committed.
Yeah.
I doubt Hubert and them. Once you're, what did they do? I doubt they did anything wrong. This was clearly his decision. Something changed with South Carolina, whether it be maybe he got more money promised to him through NIL or a bigger role.
Definitely the role.
I'm not mad at him.
Yeah.
It's probably better for him in the long run to go to a school like that and get those reps before he goes to, the NBA. And I'm speaking from experience with that. I think that's probably the better thing to do.
Or you can go to a place like Duke where we have a lot of really talented freshmen that we play and help them get better. So there's a difference in programs.
Yeah.
One sounds great.
Huge difference. I'm just going to move on.
All right, go.
Similar to you, shooting woes.
Yeah.
We're right there with you. I think both Caleb Love and RJ are shooting below 30%, which isn't great. You would like to see them well above 30%, especially, both of them being volume three-point shooters. As a team, Pete Nance is, he's at 40%, keeping us, looking good, but we're still as a team like right around 30%.
Yeah.
So, it's, especially as, we start to play some tougher and tougher opponents, you got to make shots. You got to make shots, especially as whenever a team comes into the Dean Dome or comes into Tyler Hansborough Indoor Stadium, that rim gets super big. There's always a career high. And I used to hate that. Whenever dudes would come into play, it was like, yo, who is this man having a career high on us tonight? Every single time, man.
For us, it was always some random, but it wasn't like the leading scorer.
Oh yeah,
a lot of times
sure.
It was the guy who was like the fourth leading scorer who all of a sudden, because you're focused on defending the leading scorer, and
we've seen that already with Carolina this year. The kid from Iowa State just goes off.
Yeah.
And your father will appreciate this vernacular. I would like for my Tar Heel Nation, myself, I think we need to stop resting on our laurels.
Wow.
I really think we do, man. Like, last year was last year. It was a great year. Shout out to your dad, man. He's going to like that, bro. I had to Google that. And I'm just
happy you're thank you.
Man,
thank you. Give me.
You're welcome. I just want us to get back to playing good basketball. Win or lose, I don't care. Just go out there and play as hard as you can. Use your brain, and compete. I just, as a fan, I'm a fan, bro. I'm not excited watching this team, man. Like, I hate to say it, like, I just don't feel like this team is playing inspired basketball. At times, for sure. But there's no way you go from the team we saw last year, the preseason #1, to, like your wife so kindly pointed out, the first #1 team to be lose four in a row. And like I said, I can deal with losses. I can deal with losses, man, but I just feel like I don't know what it is. We've talked about this in the Q&A episode. Is it egos? Is it just, a hangover from, last year? I don't know what it is, man, but
playing like they've already done something.
Yeah, they haven't, and they have, but they haven't, man.
Getting there is an accomplishment.
Sure.
Winning is doing something.
Thank you, Ryan. They made a decision to come back, man, and I guess being an old salty former Tar Heel, like that didn't get that can never have the opportunity to put on that Carolina blue again.
Sure.
I'm just like, man, like just leave it all out there, and take advantage of this beautiful opportunity that you guys have as a team. Y'all made the decision to come back to do something special. And that doesn't mean it's going to be storybook ending, and we know how, I don't want to say lucky, but you really got to get lucky.
Yeah, anything can happen.
Anything can happen. But I've just been, disappointed thus far, and I'm just looking forward to seeing some Carolina basketball, some inspiring basketball going into this new year.
I think that the Tar Heels need that speech from a few episodes ago on the pod that Coach K gave me after trying to throw the behind-the-back pass. You're playing with a name on the front of the jersey, not the back.
And what we're really seeing here, and I hate to get on this tangent, but I really just feel like, college basketball as a whole, but especially, I can only speak from Carolina's perspective. I just feel like it's kind of getting further and further away from, just the foundation of what made Carolina basketball truly special, and that's nobody's fault. That's just the times what we're in here.
Yep.
It's starting with the kids getting recruited when they're, 7th to 8th graders, getting just absolutely, any and everything that they want, so it's tough because they're a product of their environment.
Yep.
But I know why I went to Carolina. It was to be it wasn't for me, you know what I mean? It was to be a part of the Carolina, history, the Dean Smith, the Michael Jordan, and so on, and I don't know if I get that from this group, man, if I'm being completely honest. But it's a new year, baby.
Fresh start, baby.
Fresh start. I'm going to do my part. I'm tuned in. I'm rocking with y'all, man. Don't ever doubt me. Man. I'm rocking with y'all, and I know we've had a rough go at it 2022, but it's up from here.
I'll watch them begrudgingly for the podcast. But,
I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Sorry about that little tangent, man.
No, that was a good one. All right, let's get off that negativity.
Let's do it, man.
Let's move to the positives. Let's move to the positives. The things I want to remember, I want to keep from 2022, leading us right into 2023.
Let's hear it.
Number one, it's not forgotten by any stretch of the imagination, but it's always worth saying is I want to keep remembering the greatness of Coach K. His career as a head coach is over.
Yeah, it's over.
I'm just going to look at the camera. Served as the head coach at Duke University from 1980 to 2022.
Jeez.
42 years. Led the Blue Devils to 5 national titles, 13 Final Fours, 15 ACC tournament championships, and 13 ACC regular season titles. All-time wins. I mean, he's greatness personified as a coach. I know you are there's an asterisk next to he's the best coach of all time in college basketball history.
I am. I've gone on record saying that.
You have absolutely gone on record saying that.
I guess I got to stick with that, dude.
I'm biased, but he's the GOAT.
Yeah.
So that's my number one. It's just there's always a moment to remember that greatness. And right now he's, I think, kind of staying away from the program just so John, at least in the games and stuff, so that John can – it's his now. But
which I respect.
Yes. There is definitely there's going to be moments in the future where we need to be like, Cameron Indoor needs to constantly be like, this guy was amazing.
Yeah.
And we have to find ways
to – It's Coach K Court, correct?
Yeah.
I'm not – okay. And
Shashevskyville's the area outside.
How do you feel about him? The difference between, a lot of the fans might want to hear about your take on this. Coach K made his retirement before the year, which people said made this last season about him versus, Roy making the decision to step down or whatever you want to call it. Retire. I shouldn't say step down. Retire before the year.
I don't think there's a right answer.
Yeah.
Honestly. Roy does that, and there's a kid that's coming to Carolina who expected to play for Roy Williams and isn't anymore, and they're not happy about it. They're,
This is true.
I think the goal of it for Coach K was not necessarily to be like, this is about me. I don't think that was the
I doubt it.
Intent. I wouldn't be surprised if Nike wanted that.
Yeah.
Because it does seem like there have been a number of Nike athletes that had the Kobe's,
the retirement year,
the retirement tours, and obviously Coach K and Duke is a Nike school and Nike program.
Yeah.
But I think he was genuinely thinking, one, that I'm sure he could more easily be part of the succession process
Yeah.
if it was
Yeah. Out
set
there.
up and then also just I think he wanted people to know. I mean, I look back to the time I was going to Duke, and at that time I legitimately was like, "Oh, you for sure gonna be here
Yeah.
the whole if I'm here
Oh, yeah,
4
yeah,
years,
there was no
you know?"
question. Yeah, there
And
was no question for me as well.
and so I'm sure that
Yeah.
kids were coming in now and going,
Yeah.
what's the deal? I mean,
I
are you
believe
gonna? So I think it was fair
Yeah.
to the kids. I understand the scrutiny, but I just don't think that was
Yeah.
the major intent of it. I think it was for the betterment. He bleeds Duke blue,
For sure.
and I just think the intent was
Yeah.
for the sake of the program and the sake
Yeah.
of the kids. So
Yeah. I just wanted to get your
yeah,
thoughts on that.
I understand.
I'm sure a lot of people.
Yeah, I think a lot of people-
There was a huge.
Yeah.
You know, he's doing this. He's selfish.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not. Yeah. Anything else would you like to?
Oh, I have lots of stuff.
Okay.
There are a lot of good news
All
going
right.
on here. That rolls right into the other thing that I want to keep rolling for this year is John Shire.
Coach Shire.
So far, so good, I would say.
Mm.
In terms of, we've lost games, we've won
Yeah.
games, we've lost games. I just like what I've seen from his command on the sideline
Yeah.
to his interviews
Yeah.
to how kids, the players I've seen talk about him in interviews
Yeah.
or Duke Blue Planet videos or whatever. As ridiculous as it sounds, I do think that matters, that people have on their mind, this is a guy that I like to play for.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's –
Can't fake that.
no, you cannot fake that. You can't. And I just think that he's going to be a really good coach for a long time. And, the expectations are crazy.
Of course.
I just listed off Coach K's career.
Yeah.
If you have a quarter of that career, you're a Hall of Fame coach.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
or a third, I don't know. But I think it was the right decision for Duke, and I'm really happy that the program is continuing to roll in the right direction.
Yeah.
So keep that. And that also leads right into the awesome recruiting that he continues to do. For next year, Duke it's now, unfortunately, the number 2 class.
Oh, the kid went to Kentucky.
Kentucky
I saw that.
took over the number 1 spot. But to seamlessly go number 1 class, number 2 class,
Yeah.
that's the building blocks at the end of the day for a program. And you got to get good players to come to the school, and you want to develop them and them to get better, but you got to start there. So that's big. In terms of this year's team, I said Kyle Filipowski and Ryan Young. Keep them
Ryan
rolling.
Young. We gave him a shout out early on. I doubted him.
You doubted him.
I mean, I doubt, but rightfully so.
Yes, I think you're.
Grad transfer.
Yeah. He's averaging 7 and 7 and shooting 70% from the
He
field,
is
Ryan. Yeah.
What you say, just he's solid.
Yes.
Just, you know what you're going to get from him.
So that was a little, and I would say Filipowski obviously was a big recruit, but I
Yeah.
did not expect 15 and 9,
Yeah.
rebounding the heck out of the ball,
Yeah.
and been while not super efficient scorer, certainly a
Yeah.
consistent scorer for Duke, and has
Yep.
been ACC Rookie of the Week multiple times.
Yeah.
So love that, and I want to keep the great rebounding, which we've said Carolina was going to be the
Yeah.
amazing rebounding school, but
Yeah.
it's been Duke with a 11 rebound advantage on a
Sure.
game-to-game basis at this point. So, keep all those things. Keep rolling with them.
Great list.
Thank you.
Shout out to Coach K, man, from Tar Heel. Just having the opportunity to play against him and, be recruited by him, albeit for a little bit of time, have conversations with him, man. He's definitely one of, if not the greatest coach that the game of basketball has ever seen. And it's crazy just to be able to, have played in the rivalry, and to hear you talk about being able to play for him, man, that's awesome, man, because, 100 years from now, 50 years from now, his name will always be, mentioned with, the greats, Wooden and all the other ones, that this game has seen, but especially at the collegiate level.
Yep.
He's really in a class of his own.
Yep.
For me, in terms of 2022, we've talked about the memorable run. Roy, albeit took over 2021, so I can't list off all his accolades. But for me, I would just say, not just so much the run, but just I was just so excited for Hubert. A lot of y'all might not know, but, Hubert took over after my freshman year, and to have him come on the staff and be an assistant coach while I was there after really my freshman year. Once I got to campus, he kind of took me under his wing, him and his wife, Miss Leslie, and their beautiful family live in Chapel Hill. And Hubert would take me to church. He would always, let me come up to the house and just, get a home-cooked meal. There's a funny story. Miss Leslie had to help me change my bedroom sheets one time. Your boy got sick.
Oh.
Your boy got sick. Shout out to Miss Leslie. Man, she came
nobody
through
would do that
for your boy.
I don't think my wife would do that
I know,
for me.
man. But just literally, man, like one of my role models, off the court. We're not even talking basketball here.
Yeah.
My wife is got to be really close with Miss Leslie and their beautiful family, their beautiful kids, man. So when he got the job, right, I'm just like, this is basically kind of like, like if your brother, got elected, I don't know, president or was governor of North Carolina.
Yep.
It's like, we good. We good. I just felt like, when he
you pull up, you got the license plate that says you can park wherever you want.
Man. Yeah, check my tags, man. I'm with Hubert, man.
Can't get a ticket.
Yeah. And to see him, get this position and, it's just like, I'm not going to get emotional, but like I get emotional, because it's just a blessing, man, to be able to know him and his family and just what he stands for as a man of God, and just watching from afar at times, but being able to hang out with him in the summers and be around his family and go over to his house and just hang out. And I just couldn't be any more excited, because as a fan last year I was a little worried. The team wasn't doing as great or as well as I personally or anybody, Hubert himself, wanted them to play. And just to see the run that they went on, it just really just brought such joy to me. And I was just so excited for him, because it is a business, and just like if Shire and them start losing games, somebody's
gonna say something.
Somebody's gonna say something,
yep.
And that's just what it is. So to see him have that success in his first year, even if they did not win a championship, I'm going to take that and I'm going to ride with it, and always going to remember that forever. And I know he will too. And I think that's what makes, this year so much more difficult, but also exciting at the same time is, they kind of set that bar. And I think Hubert is going to do a great job of kind of rallying these guys similar to how he did last year, because I do feel like he encapsulates everything that we kind of talked about before in terms of what is Carolina basketball. It's all about the name on the front of the jersey.
Yep.
It's never been about the name on the back of the jersey, and that is Hubert Davis personified. He is a Tar Heel through and through.
Yep.
That man eats, sleep, breathes, being a Tar Heel. He even has I ain't going to put him out there.
You can't do that.
I think he got a Tar Heel tattoo, man.
Oh,
it might be public knowledge, though. I'm sorry, Hubert, if I just outed you. I'm really sorry, man.
That's love, though.
That's love, though, man.
That is love.
And, I'm just excited. This is only his second year, which is crazy. I feel like
what a roller coaster of a first year.
I know. Like, we're only a year and a half into, not even, we're almost at that halfway point of this year, but just the roller coaster of, a first year and a half. I see why college coaching is so difficult, so stressful, and so just all inclusive, but I think, him and his staff are going to do a great job, going forward like they've done for this past year and a half. So
that's cool. And I didn't remember that he was on the staff when you were there. Like, to have been coached by him and then see him be the head coach. I have that little bit of difference where I never saw John as a coach. I saw him as a teammate.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen Carolina experienced a little bit where when you're having that changing of the guard from a great coach, all-time coach, you have to have somebody that knows and that is appreciated by former players, has a connection with them. Like, all that is valuable, and as you're saying,
super valuable.
Hubert does have that, certainly with you, and I'm sure with a lot of former Carolina players. So that when those bumps that inevitably are going to happen, the backing of people that are important is there.
1,000%.
So
1,000%.
Hubert has that, and I know John has that too. So
Yeah. That's it, man. That's all I got.
it's good stuff.
Yeah, man. This was fun.
Yeah.
We appreciate everybody tuning in, checking us out, hearing us out. We touched on a lot, but
Talk for too long, like
Probably.
always. But
it's our podcast.
yeah,
We
we
can
can
do
do
what
what we want.
Any questions, comments, concerns, hit the mailbag at the Better Blue Podcast.
Should be a lot of concerns about Carolina basketball.
At Gmail. Let me finish my take, man. At gmail.com. Ryan Kelly, 3434 on all platforms. James McAdoo on all platforms. Thank you to our wonderful producer, manager, agent, talent, aficionado. I don't even know what that means. Tell your dad, man.
He's good at it.
Don't get mad at me.
Yeah.
Devin for hooking us up. And we look forward to chatting it up with y'all next episode.
Yeah, let's have a great new year together. As
Do
cheesy as that sounds, appreciate all of
Yeah.
you that were with us in 2022. Let's have a great 2023.
MJ year.
Oh,
We out.
come on. Peace.
Peace.